Welcome. The goal for this presentation on plagiarism is to help you understand what plagiarism is and isn't, PBA's position on plagiarism, the consequences of plagiarism, even if it is unintentional, and some tips for how to avoid plagiarism. Your academic and professional career could be damaged by plagiarism. This man was in the news in Palm Beach County a few years ago. While he may not be familiar to you, or even to the people who were in his audience, his speech was very familiar to many who heard it. His name is Mark Stenner, and he was the principal of West Boca Raton High School. His commencement speech was plagiarized from a speech that Professor David McCullough Jr. delivered at Wesley College in 2012. This was a speech that went viral on YouTube and is one of the most popular speeches in American history. An analysis of the speech by the Palm Beach Post and iAuthenticate.com indicated that 87% of Stenner's speech was lifted word for word from the original. What happened? Stenner lost his job as principal and was reassigned to non-instructional positions. His career is most likely ruined, and it will be difficult for others to trust him again. Plagiarism is serious. What do you think? Feel free to stop this recording for a moment and discuss your response to Stenner's plagiarism. Do you feel like the consequences were too severe? Are there other examples of plagiarism that you can think of? Here's what PBA thinks about plagiarism: that it is a serious act of dishonesty and a violation to academic integrity. The bottom line is that plagiarism is wrong. Before looking at what plagiarism is, let's talk about what it is not. Many people think that plagiarism is simply about using someone else's words, but that is incorrect. Plagiarism is actually using or stealing another person's ideas, words, or data in writing, in speech, in graphics, or incorporated into tables or charts as if those ideas were your own. This is PBA's policy from the graduate catalog. Plagiarism is universally recognized as a serious form of dishonesty, not just in academic assignments, but on the job and in the community. To continue, the academy, or the broad university community, views academic dishonesty as a serious academic offense and a failure of character and personal integrity. Remember that even unintentional plagiarism has consequences. These are usually the same consequences as intended plagiarism. The primary reason for this is that there are ways to ensure you are not plagiarizing. Be responsible and use those tools. Note again the consequences of plagiarism. This is for both intentional and unintentional. You may earn a 0 on the assignment, but you may also fail a class, be placed on academic probation, be entered into a plagiarism remediation program, or you may be removed from the graduate program. There are easy ways to avoid unintentional plagiarism. So let's talk about some of the ways we use material in our papers and assignments. Knowing the difference between these can help you integrate material in a professional manner and also help you avoid plagiarism. Quoting is using exact information, whether it's words, a diagram, an illustration, a table, a photo, or anything exactly from an original source. Keep in mind that if it's a quotation, it must be in quotation marks, and if it is in quotation marks, it must be quoted exactly. Keep in mind that not more than 10% of your paper should be someone else's words, unless you are specifically instructed by your professor. Now let's consider paraphrasing. A paraphrase is where you put the information in your own words. Keep in mind that you must still cite a paraphrase because you're talking about someone else's idea and not just their words. Keep in mind as you paraphrase that at your level of education, almost all unintentional plagiarism results from inadequate paraphrasing, which means that either you have added actual quotations without quotation marks, or the paraphrase has not been cited properly. Summarizing is your idea of what you think something is, what something is about, or a conclusion. This must be all your own idea, or you must cite a source. It's important to remember that if you use key terms or a paraphrase, or if you use any ideas that are an author's and not yours, you must cite accordingly. Here is a way to look at what you need to do in order to avoid plagiarism. It's called IDC. There are 3 components of IDC. Indicate the components of the source, distinguish sources from each other, and cite all material properly. As noted before, you must use quotation marks for quotations. That's how you indicate that the information is actually exact wording from your original source. Even if it's one term in a paraphrase, you must use quotation marks around that term. Be sure to let your reader know that a quotation is coming. Don't just drop it into the text and expect your reader to understand its purpose. Tell your reader why the quotation is important and the point you're trying to make by using it. One of the biggest mistakes writers make is assuming that the reader knows the purpose of why you're using the quotation. Also, it's important to vary your sentence structure. You don't want every sentence to sound exactly the same because that's boring. To distinguish means to set apart your work from the work of others, your sources. If you do not do that successfully, you may be plagiarizing. Here is some additional information on distinguishing. Be sure that you're careful when paraphrasing because that's where most students run into trouble. Finally, be sure that you cite properly both in the text of the paper and at the end on the references or bibliography page. Failure to do so in both places may result in plagiarism. Follow the formatting style that you have chosen for your paper. Use the most current formatting manual. As graduate students, you should own a copy. The Center for Writing Excellence is also here to assist you, and you should take advantage of that service. Finally, do not use citation generators like EasyBib. They are often incorrect and prone to errors, and do not always use the most current information. You must meet all criteria of the I, D, and C, or you may be plagiarizing. Just to reiterate, again, as graduate students and soon-to-be professionals, get a copy of your style manual. For pharmacy, that is typically AMA. If your professor wants something different than AMA or a specific alteration to the formatting style, follow that alteration for that class only. Assume you should use AMA from the manual unless you're told differently in another class. Let's try a few questions and see how you do. If plagiarism involves using other people's work as if it were your own, then you can't possibly plagiarize yourself, right? Wrong. You can plagiarize yourself. It is academically dishonest to submit all or part of an assignment you prepared for one course, even if that course was at a different school or for a different degree program, as part of an assignment for another course. If you have past homework you feel is relevant to a new assignment and want to use it again, you must first discuss the issue openly with your professor and get permission to use the old work in the new assignment. Even if you do get permission, you must still IDC that material in your new assignment just as you would do with any other source. In other words, yes, you do cite yourself. So our next question has to do with what we actually learn in class. If I'm paying for my classes, I can use material from my professor without IDC, right? No, your professor or guest lecturer is not you. They are experts, and they have lectures, class websites, handouts that are intellectual property. All those sources need to be IDC'd in your paper. If you're unsure how to properly IDC this material, Consult your professor before submitting the assignment. What is one tool that professors use to help identify plagiarism? Turnitin is a website that faculty and administrators use to screen student assignments for originality. You do not need to establish a Turnitin account or use the website yourself. Your professors will arrange for your assignments to be screened, typically as they are uploaded to Canvas. Turnitin uses a search engine to compare submitted assignments to materials on the internet, to numerous databases of scholarly papers and other publications, and to Turnitin's own database that consists of all assignments that have ever been submitted to Turnitin.com. For each assignment, your professor will receive a confidential originality report that he or she can further examine in order to determine if plagiarism occurred. Professors are not obligated to notify or remind students that assignments will be submitted to Turnitin.com. You should assume that all of your assignments in the Gregory School of Pharmacy will be screened. Turnitin.com not only screens for plagiarism in academic assignments, but also provides free, extensive resources to educate students about plagiarism. Finally, are there resources available to help me avoid unintentional plagiarism? Absolutely, there are resources that can help you to avoid plagiarism. There's the style manual that you should have a copy of and refer to. You can also ask your professor. The Purdue University Online Writing Lab can be a helpful resource to look up information about citing sources. And then finally, the Center for Writing Excellence, that's part of Palm Beach Atlantic University, is here to serve you with all of your writing needs. We can help you at any point in the writing process, whether you are brainstorming, drafting, doing revision, or doing your final editing. We can also help you with citing sources in the text and on your bibliography page at the end. Thank you so much for your attention. This presentation has been sponsored by Palm Beach Atlantic University's Center for Writing Excellence. You can find us at www.pba.edu/CWE. We look forward to working with you.